Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Circula Aquasport 2 Grey. This watch is available from circulawatches.com for €940 on the rubber tropic style strap, alternatively for €990 on the beads of rice bracelet. The Aquasport 2 is available in a plethora of colour options. Of the colour options, I think this grey version is the best looking. Circula have a rich brand heritage. They were founded in 1955 in Germany, so this year, in 2025, they celebrate their 70th anniversary. Circula are now based in Pforzheim in Germany. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box which is housed inside an outer black cardboard box, and the outer box is protected in shipping by this white cardboard sleeve. We have Circula's text logo on the sleeve, so one removes the sleeve, and this is the outer black cardboard watch box. As you can see, good attention to detail, Circula's text logo on the lid. So one removes the lid, which is a snug fit to the base. Pulls down the flap, and inside we have the watch box, which I'll take out and show you. The watch box has a spring-loaded hinge lid. It's black vinyl coated with a grained finish, rather like vinyl PU leather. The top of the hinge lid has the Circula emblem and Circula text logo embossed, flawless stitching around the perimeter, and every side of it is very well coated with black vinyl, and it's very aesthetically pleasing. So one opens the spring-loaded hinge lid, and the interior is fully upholstered with contrasting grey velour fabric to a good standard, as you can see. And in the underside of the hinge lid, we have the Circula emblem and Circula text logo in silver. In the base, there's a cutout which houses this padded pillow cushion, and the padded pillow cushion is also upholstered with contrasting grey velour fabric to a good standard. It's a good snug fit in the base. So, excellent presentation. Immediately one gets the impression that the Aquasport 2 is a high quality piece made in Pforzheim in Germany. With regards to the items that come with the piece, it also comes with this booklet, and it says "Your time, your dreams, your freedom," which is the motto of Circula. And inside the front page, it details the foundation of the brand, 1955, and that they're based in Pforzheim. And on the next page, there's a QR code. So each of the pages in the corner feature a QR code which can be scanned with your Android or iPhone to download more information. This details the 3 generations. So to clarify, Circula was founded in Germany in 1955 by Heinz Huber. And then in 1971, Klaus Dieter Huber, the son of the founder, took over the brand, and then in 2019 Cornelius Huber, the grandson of the founder, took over the brand, and Cornelius Huber remains the CEO from 2019 to the present day. So Circula is family owned for 3 generations: the founder, the son of the founder, and the grandson of the founder. So nice to see 70 years of brand heritage, and as I've detailed, this year in 2025 Circula celebrate their 70th anniversary. Then it details the different types of watches they produce. So we have dive watches and a QR code you can scan. And on the next page, we have field watches. And again, we have a QR code you can scan. And then on the next page, we have pilot watches. And again, a QR code you can scan. And lastly, steel sports watches. And again, a QR code you can scan. Now on the last page, they also detail the 3 different calibers they're using in their different watches. So the Sellita SW200-1, Sellita SW330-2, and the Ledoux Perret G100, 3 of my personal favourites. And again, we have a QR code. You can download more information about the specific 3 calibers they're using. And this is excellent presentation. It's innovative, and rather than just having a very large catalogue detailing their entire collection, because they do produce an incredible plethora of watches, they simply have refined it. They've distilled it down to the different types, such as field watches, pilot watches, dive watches, and steel sports watches, and they simply have QR codes you can scan. So this is excellent. It's innovative, but it's concise. With regards to the items, one also gets this authenticity and warranty card, and I'm pleased to report the Aquasport 2 is covered by a 2-year international warranty, which is the industry standard for mid-tier pieces between €500 and €5,000. On the reverse, we have the model Aquasport, the caliber used, the SW200-1, Elaborate grade, Circula, the vendor, and the date of purchase. And one also gets this card, which specifically details with clear English instructions the operation of the crown, and on the reverse it has the same in German, so it's bilingual. And one also gets this rotating disc card, as you can see, and it has different tabs on it: warranty, welcome, set time and dates, adjust strap, basic care, and in water. So you simply rotate the front disc, as you can see, around, and that exposes the different panels of information. And for the adjust strap, there's also a QR code which can be scanned with your Android or iPhone. So this is a credible alternative to using a printed booklet for an owner's instruction manual. But however, subjectively being critical of this, I think they could refine all this, because what we have here is 3 cards. We have one card for Crown operating instructions, one card for the warranty card and authenticity, which acts like a certificate, and then we have this card which covers warranty. Also, it's effectively an owner's instruction manual. They could simply refine this. They could distill this down to 2 cards. Simply have one card with a QR code for the warranty and one card which could be the owner's instruction manual with a QR code that could be scanned with an Android or iPhone, and they could delete this. I think it's too much. So, lastly, one also gets this Circula branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. So, excellent presentation, but they just need to refine the amount of paperwork, the amount of cards that come with the watch. 2 would suffice. Warranty card, owner's instruction manual card. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Aquasport 2. So, to clarify the heritage of this piece, the original Aquasport was made by Circula in the 1970s, and then they produced a heritage reissue of it, and that was called the Aquasport. Now, when I say heritage reissue, it wasn't a direct heritage reissue, didn't have the same dimensions, the same specification. It was made to modern day specification, but it was clearly inspired by the original Aquasport from the 1970s. This Aquasport 2 is the latest version of it, made to modern day specifications, but one can clearly see the design elements of the original Aquasport from the 1970s, such as the tonneau case and the shape of the indices and the handset. So it is inspired by the original, but of course a more contemporary size of 40mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 46mm, a thickness of 13.4mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The rubber tropic style strap is 20mm at the lugs, tapering down to the buckle and tang. Solid 316L grade stainless steel buckle and tang, brushed satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks. No sharp edges, no sharp corners, and the Circula text logo is engraved with high definition engraving to a good standard. Nice heavy gauge to the buckle and tang, and the finishing is excellent, beautiful luster to it on every facet. 2 keepers on the tropic style strap, and they are both sliding, they aren't fixed. As you can see, plenty of adjustment, and as per the original tropic straps used in the 1960s and 1970s, it's fully perforated and has the iconic textured pattern to the top side and the underside, so very aesthetically pleasing. It's made from FKM floor rubber as an alternative to natural rubber, or NBR, which is nitrile butadiene, or alternatively silicone rubber, which are the other industry standards, the alternatives. FKM floor rubber is a compromise between NBR, nitrile butadiene, and silicone rubber, and I'll detail the benefits and the negatives of it. So, we have a double diamond sapphire crystal with double AR coating on the underside, and the double anti-reflective coating on the underside does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver brushed satin finished handset and the silver brushed satin finished applied indices. Textured dial adds interest to it, and I like the contrasting orange circle around the circumference for the chaptering, which are clearly indexed with black minute ticks. So the dial is textured rather than just being flat, and I like the grey tone of it because it has a metallic sheen. Now, it's not glossy enamel finished, nor is it sunray finished, but it does have a metallic sheen. So the grey dial does actually change colour when you tilt it in the light due to its metallic property rather than just being a matte textured dial. I like the waves in it, which are engraved rather like laser engraving, and also the symmetry of the dial. Rather than having an asymmetrical dial with a date complication at the default position of 3, Circula have made the correct decision because they've cited the date complication at the 6 o'clock position. So therefore the dial is perfectly balanced. It's perfectly symmetrical versus asymmetrical. Double applied indices at 12 are larger than the other indices, and they give good orientation to the dial. So legibility is good, functionality is good, the clarity is good. Just bear with me, I'm going to move the minute hand out of the way and you'll be able to see it better because I want to show you the text on the dial at 6. What I like about this piece, and they deserve credit here because often mid-tier brands and mid-tier micro brands make the error of over-branding the dial with unnecessary text and specification. What we have here is just the right amount of information because we have Circula, the text logo at 12, and then we simply have Aquasport, and then we have the water resistance rating, 200 m/660 feet. in contrasting orange, which complements the accents of the chapter ring and the contrasting orange second hand. But for example, they haven't printed automatic on the dial. This piece is powered by the Circula Caliber SW200-1, a Lab grade, and therefore it's a given that it's automatic versus quartz or mechanical manual wind. Therefore they don't need to print automatic on the dial. That would give 3 lines of text at 6. It would look too busy, too cluttered. This is minimalist. It looks clean and also looks similar to the original Aquasport from the 1970s, which this is inspired by. And I like it. I like that the dial is clean. So symmetry is good, legibility is good, proportions of the indices are good. I like the way the double indices at 12 and the 9 and 6 and 3 indices are larger, and it does look very balanced. It's very well executed. Quality of the printing of the black minute ticks is sharp and crisp. Also the circular text logo, the font is clean, it's sharp, it's crisp, it's high definition. Text is correctly proportioned for Aquasport and also the water resistance rating. Either side of the 6 o'clock index we have made in Germany, because as I've detailed, Circula make their watches in Pforzheim in Germany, which is excellent, and they're right to be proud of that and print made in Germany on the piece, like Swiss watches have Swiss made. Made in Germany really is very good. So bezel is made from solid 316L grade stainless steel, and it's coin edge finished. Nice large chamfer which is mirror polished, and that deletes the sharp tips to the coin edge teeth and allows the double dome sapphire crystal to project above it. It's a low dome double dome sapphire crystal, and I want to give credit to Circula here, because often mid-tier brands and mid-tier micro brands make the mistake of using a box top hat crystal to give the piece a vintage aesthetic, because a box top hat double dome sapphire crystal does aesthetically look similar to a vintage plexiglass, acrylic or Hesselite crystal used in the 1960s and 1970s. But the negative is box top hat crystals add too much thickness to a piece. They add 2mm of thickness, and therefore they often increase the thickness significantly above 13mm for a 200 metre water resistant piece. This is 13.4, so it is marginally above the 13mm sweet spot. It's 0.4 thicker, but however, it's a low profile double dome sapphire crystal, so it looks aesthetically pleasing, but it looks more interesting than just having a flat sapphire crystal. I really like it. So coin edge bezel is low profile, gives the piece a vintage aesthetic. The bezel insert is made from sapphire crystal, which is inlaid with BGW9 Super Lume. Now, I want to give due credit to Circula again, because they could have used the default option of a ceramic bezel insert or alternatively an aluminium bezel insert. Now, subjectively, purist Circula collectors will be critical of this. They would say, well, it would look better if it had an aluminium bezel insert as per the original from the 1970s, therefore it would look true to the original. But however, modern day collectors would prefer the contemporary specification of ceramic or sapphire crystal bezel insert, because of course they are harder, more scratch resistant than the original aluminium bezel insert used in the 1970s. I like it. I think the sapphire bezel insert makes a refreshing change from using ceramic or aluminium. It's got a nice glossy finish to it, and of course sapphire crystal is hard and scratch resistant. They've done an excellent job of the inlay on the underside of it with BGW9, because the triangle is crisp, the hour markers are crisp, and also the font is clearly legible. 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50 are clearly legible. They're easy to read and the quality is excellent. So it's a very well executed sapphire bezel insert, and I like the glossy finish. It looks like enamel black. It's very aesthetically pleasing. Case is a tonneau case, concentric CNC lathe tool machining to the top, which has a circular profile to it. Longitudinal bevels which run the full length of the tonneau case. Nice large mirror polish finishing to the bevels, and this again is inspired by the original Aquasport from the 1970s, which used a tonneau case, albeit it was a smaller proportion, but this aesthetically does look similar. I like the low profile flanks. Often with tonneau cases, they're very thick, like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel, and that diminishes comfort level and feel good factor. What I like about this tonneau case is the flanks are not slab sided, they have a large undercut which deletes some of the meat, and the large mirror polished bevel running the full length of the case, which marks the transition between the top of the tonneau case and the flanks, also reduces some of the meat. So visually it doesn't look slab sided, does look good, and also proportions look correct. The crown is solid 316L grade stainless steel, has a groove machined into it and an anodised orange ring. And the anodised orange ring adds interest to the coin edge finished crown and also complements the orange accents of the chapter ring and the second hand and the orange text on the dial. So good continuity of design, and also its mirror polished cap is engraved with the circular emblem with high definition engraving. So let's test the screw down crown execution. Provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters, which is strong specification. Silky smooth, this is sublime screw down crown execution. Minimal number of turns required to unscrew. Perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. So when it's unscrewed, we're now in the manual wind position, and one can manually wind the Circula Calibre SW200-1 automatic Elaborate grade to its maximum 41-hour power reserve. Feels smooth to manually wind, so to put it into perspective, it feels smoother than manually winding an HK Precision Technology PT5000, which feels rough or gritty in comparison. There's no discernible difference between how smooth it is and an ETA 2824-2 or a soft rod caliber P024. The aforementioned are of course clones. The SW200-1 and the P024 are clones of the ETA 2824-2. The architecture of the movements is therefore the same, and they feel exactly the same to manually wind. So this does feel the same as a P024 and also feels the same as an ETA 2824-2, although it does feel smoother than the PT5000 respectively. Putting it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. So if you look at the date window at 6, I like that they've used a black date wheel with white Arabic numerals rather than the default option of a white date wheel with black Arabic numerals, because the black date wheel blends with this circle in the centre of the dial in black, and the white Arabic numerals, both the singles and doubles, give good definition, they're easy to read, and they also match the white text on the dial. So, clicks over with a nice positive click. The clicking sensation feels lighter than a Seiko NH35A, which you may be familiar with, and it feels heavier than a Miyota 9015, which again you may be familiar with. But in terms of the quick set date complication, feels exactly the same as the ETA 2824-2, because of course the SW200-1, as I've detailed, is a clone of it. The single and the double Arabic numerals align correctly, the font is sharp, it's high definition and crisp, it's not too thick and blurry, and the alignment is correct. The single and double Arabic numerals are not too high or too low in the date window, and they're not too far to the left or the right. So the alignment is bang on the centre, both the singles and the doubles. I like the clicking feeling, and it feels good. It feels refined, reliable and robust. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. If you look at the contrasting orange second hand with the arrowhead tip, you can see it's now stopped dead, so therefore it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the Circula Calibre SW200-1 automatic. So we're now in the time setting position. Feels smooth, clockwise and anti-clockwise, doesn't feel rough or gritty, doesn't feel too stiff. The balance is correct. One can feel the meshing of the gearing, feels nice and smooth, feels refined. So I like the feeling of it. And minimal backplay. When you rotate the coin edge crown, clockwise and anti-clockwise, there's an almost immediate response to the minute hand. You don't have to take up a lot of slack, so it's very good. I like that there's minimal backplay in it, feels nice and tight. Pushing it back in has got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. The contrasting orange second hand begins to sweep around the dial, other characteristic smooth 4Hz sweep. This is something I like about the SW200-1. It has the smooth characteristic 4Hz sweep because it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour rather than 3 Hz, which has a stutter or judder. 3 Hz movements run at 21,600 vibrations per hour, such as the NH35A, which you'll all be familiar with. So nice smooth 4Hz sweep, which is aesthetically pleasing. Let's test screwing the crown back down. Instant thread pickup. There's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. The threads mate, they pick up, they interface perfectly. So this is very well refined. I really like it. It's smooth, it's sublime, and they deserve credit. The crown is correctly proportioned. It doesn't project too far from the right-hand flank of the tonneau case. However, it's large enough to be grippy and tactile. You can easily get good purchase with your index finger and thumb. And when you flex the wrist, the crown doesn't dig into the back of the hand, so they've got it right. Large enough, correctly proportioned for a 40mm tonneau case, but not too large and bulky to dig into the wrist. And they've made the correct decision by not using a knurled crown or a gear tooth profile to it, because the bezel is coin edge finished, and therefore a coin edge crown matches the bezel. Again, this is a fundamental that often mid-tier brands and mid-tier micro brands often make a mistake with. For example, they'll use a gear tooth bezel, or alternatively knurled bezel, and then there'll be a mismatch. They'll use a coin edge crown. It should always be the case. If it's a scalloped bezel, it should be a knurled crown. If it's a gear tooth bezel, it should be a gear tooth crown. If it's a coin edge bezel, it should be a coin edge crown. They should match. And this one is correct. Coin edge bezel, coin edge crown. Right, so let's look at the strap in detail. So This is a rubber tropic style strap. Tropic straps were made in the 1960s and 1970s, and of course the original Aquasport from the 1970s would have used a tropic rubber strap, so this is appropriate. It's effectively a replica of it, made to the original pattern. So you can see textured finish to the top side as per the original, fully perforated. So perforation serves two purposes. Yes, it's aesthetically pleasing, plenty of holes in it to fit from a 6 to an 8-inch wrist, which is good. The other purpose of the perforations is it allows for sweat and perspiration to wick away from the wrist. So in warmer weather, when one is active, the strap dries out quickly. So that's the benefit. The other benefit is if you use the watch for diving in seawater, it also allows the water to wick away from the wrist and the strap to dry out quickly. So that's the benefit. Quick release stainless steel spring bars are the correct choice rather than using standard stainless steel spring bars. So that's good because that negates the need for a spring bar tool, because often with stiff FKM floor rubber straps like this, it can be difficult to compress the edge of the strap inside the tonneau case, and one can slip off a standard spring bar and scuff and scratch the lugs on a tonneau case. This is good because the quick release spring bar means you don't need to use a spring bar tool. So textured on the underside, but does feel smooth. Now in terms of the material, it's tapered. It's thicker at the spring bar end where it needs to be more robust and reinforced, because that's an area that straps often tend to split and crack around the spring bar. Tapers down in thickness, tapers down in width as per the original Tropic straps. But FKM floor rubber, I want to explain the benefits, the positives and the negatives. So the positive benefit is FKM floor rubber really is a compromise between natural rubber and NBR, which is nitrile butadiene rubber, and at the other end of the spectrum we've got silicone rubber, which is softer. So silicone rubber, the benefit is it's soft and supple, therefore it doesn't require any breaking in, very comfortable to wear. The negative is silicone rubber is softer and therefore it's not as durable and robust long term. They have a tendency to split and crack with daily wear and tear. At the top end of the spectrum, we've got natural rubber and NBR, nitrile butadiene rubber. Nitrile butadiene rubber is the most durable. It's often used in the aeronautical and automotive industries because it is chemical, acid and ultraviolet light resistant. So therefore it's particularly suitable for hostile environments due to the aforementioned properties, and also useful for watch straps due to its robust and durable nature. However, the negative of NBR, nitrile butadiene rubber, is it's stiff, and therefore it's not as soft and supple as silicone rubber. FKM floor rubber really sits in between the two as a compromise. It's stiffer than silicone rubber, that's the negative, but the positive is it's more soft and supple than natural rubber and nitrile butadiene rubber. But the other benefit is it's durable and robust. So really it is the perfect balance between being soft and supple and comfortable, but being robust and durable long term. And I really like FKM floor rubber as a result. Aesthetically, it looks the same as natural rubber or NBR. It's got a more matte finish to it than silicone rubber, but it is incredibly durable, but still soft and supple. So it's excellent, correct choice. Let's look at the buckle and tang side. So two sliding keepers, underside to the buckle is brushed satin finish to the same quality as the top, beautiful luster to it. Now the one thing I'd like to see them introduce is they could brand this strap with Circula, because I think that would enhance it. Also the Circula emblem would look good on it, embossed or simply moulded into it. That's absent because it's a sterile strap and I prefer to see it branded at this price point. Sterile tropic style straps are acceptable on low tier pieces between €0 and €500, but with mid tier pieces between €500 and €5,000, it's nice to see the rubber branded with a brand name. But of course one has to be magnanimous and say, well, they have branded the buckle, it's not a sterile buckle and tang, it does say Circula on the buckle, but it's always nice to see the brand name branded, either moulded or embossed on the rubber itself. Let's look at the case back in detail. So the original Aquasport from the 1970s also had a scuba diver, as you can see. This one does have a similar emblem on it, which is nice. Matte bead blasted background. What I like about this case is it is forged. It's hydraulically pressed. So to clarify what the difference is, for example, with low tier pieces from €0 to €500, often they'll use engraved case backs, and even when they have embossed engraving, what it is, it's engraved rather than being hydraulically pressed. Now, forged case backs are higher quality. They're seen on pieces which are mid-tier, €500 to €5,000, and also high-tier pieces at 10,000 plus, because embossing gives a better finish. It's higher quality. So this has a nice 3D effect to it. It's embossed and mirror polished. The background is matte bead blasted effect. The benefit of an embossed case back which is forged, which is hydraulically pressed versus engraved, is one doesn't get the sharp edges with deep engraving, because it's hydraulically pressed, that deletes any sharp edges, and then it's mirror polished, and this feels very smooth. So the overall benefit is this enhances the comfort level and the feel good factor. The caseback feels smoother than an engraved caseback. The circumference is engraved with the Made in Germany, water resistance rating, Circula Aquasport, and also Swiss movement, which is all true. But it feels nice and smooth. It's not rough, it's not sharp, therefore it doesn't scratch the wrist. I really like forged casebacks as a result. The outer portion is concentric CNC lathe tool machined, which refracts the light with a beautiful lustre, and the milled slots are deburred and chamfered very well, so no sharp edges. Now, it is a deep bubble back caseback, and I think Circula could reduce it. This piece is 13.4, which is okay, because it does have a double dome sapphire crystal and 200 metres, but they could slim down this caseback. I appreciate that the SW200-1 is a thicker calibre, but however, it doesn't need to have this depth of caseback. If this were 300 metres, one could be magnanimous about the depth of the caseback because it would need to be thicker. This is 200 metres. They could slim it down. Now, I appreciate it is quite deep. The hydraulic pressing, the forging is deep, but they could still reduce this by 1mm, and it would still be 200 metres of hermetic seal, because as you can see, it's a deep caseback, and this piece would be far better. The comfort level and feel good factor would be better if it were 12.4 versus 13.4. They could slim this down by 1mm very easily, simply by CNC lathe tool machining the caseback 1mm thinner in production. Underside of the tonneau case is concentric CNC lathe tool machined, beautiful lustre to it, nice large bevels on the undercuts to the flanks, that deletes the sharp edges, so no sharp edges. 4 tips of the lugs of the tonneau case have bevels, that deletes the sharp corners, so it's very well finished, no sharp edges, and the FChem floor rubber strap is a tight fit to the tonneau lugs. So let's test the bezel execution. Now just bear with me, I'll do back up the strap because I want to make it easier to hold. So coin edge bezel, 120 click unidirectional bezel as one would expect. Nice loud audible clicks. Medium firm resistance, I like it. In terms of resistance, it feels very similar to the medium firm resistance of a Seiko 5KX. Feels nice and firm. I like the loud audible clicks. You can hear the click spring engaging with each of the 120 grooves in the underside of the solid stainless steel coin edge bezel. Feels even all the way through the 360 degrees rotation. Feels nice and smooth. Doesn't feel rough or gritty. Doesn't feel too stiff. For example, it feels lighter than a Steinhardt Ocean 139, which has a very firm bezel. I like the sound of it and I like the feeling of it. Feels even all the way through the 360 degrees. No lateral side-to-side play whatsoever. No back play whatsoever. Feels nice and tight. Finally, let's check the alignment of the triangle inlaid into the sapphire crystal bezel insert. One more click. Perfect. The triangle perfectly aligns with a double index on the dial and also the 60-minute tick on the chapter ring. So perfect alignment. This is excellent bezel execution. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play, even through the 360 degrees. The alignment is perfect. Excellent. They deserve full credit for that. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. So just bear with me. I'll remove my Concord 40. So this Tropic style strap will fit from a minimum 6-inch wrist size up to a maximum 8-inch wrist size, which is good. So for example, if you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist, this will fit around a wetsuit. So you can see I can just engage the end of the strap in the 2 keepers, which is good. It's a pleasant surprise because often mid-tier pieces between €500 and €5,000, you'll know this from my previous reviews, often the straps are a fraction too short from 8-inch wrist. This one is just long enough, so 6-inch minimum, 8-inch maximum, or if you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist, it will fit around a wetsuit easily. Wrist presence is good. Tonneau case curves around the wrist very well. What I like about this piece above all else is the lack of heft. This is only 100 grams on the rubber Tropic style strap. Now, needless to say, the alternative, the beads of rice bracelet, will add significant heft to the piece. That will bring it up to 150 grams plus with all the links in the bracelet. If you want comfort level and feel good factor to be maximised, this rubber Tropic style strap is the correct choice. Gives a vintage aesthetic because, as I've detailed, Tropic straps were used in the 1960s and 1970s as per the original Aquasport from the 1970s. But tonneau case has lovely curvature to it. Although it does have a deep bubble back case back, it has this large undercut to the underside of the tonneau case, and the large mirror polished bevel visually deletes some of the meat. So it does look like low profile versus being slab-sided. The tonneau case curves around. Now, they've got it correct, because often when brands do heritage reissues of 1960s and 1970s pieces made to modern day specification, they have to scale up the proportions, for example, from 36 or 37 up to contemporary 40mm case sizes, but sometimes they lose the vintage aesthetic. It's difficult to retain the balance of modern day specification to contemporary standards, but retain vintage aesthetic. Circula have got it correct, because the double dome sapphire crystal does look like an acrylic crystal used in the 1960s, but of course the benefit is we have double AR coating, and sapphire crystal is hard and scratch resistant. The sapphire bezel insert again is modern day specification versus the original aluminium bezel insert, therefore it's harder and scratch resistant, which is good. The tonneau case visually does look similar. Now, the original was smaller, but the 40mm shape does look the same as the 1970s original Aquasport. So, looks good. Feel good factor is good. Comfort level is good. Doesn't feel like a top heavy piece. It doesn't feel like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel on a light rubber strap. This actually feels very well balanced. 20mm is the correct lug width, and the 20mm taper of the strap down to the buckle and tang is also correct. Large stainless steel buckle is correctly proportioned. There's plenty of meat on it. Looks good. So I really like it. Visually, the feel good factor and comfort level are good, and I think it's just a great looking piece from every angle. The orange circle around the wavy textured grey dial looks really good, because it gives the piece a vintage aesthetic. I like those colour accents, orange and grey and black. It really does look like a 1960s or 1970s tonneau dive piece. Fantastic looking piece. And I like the way the double dome sapphire crystal is very low profile. It almost looks flat, as I've detailed, rather than making the mistake of using a box top pad crystal and adding 2mm of thickness. It's got a nice large bevel which projects above the sapphire bezel insert of the bezel, and that catches the light, so it's a great looking piece. Legibility is good. Now, one thing I like about it is they've used brushed satin finishing to the handset and brushed satin finishing to the applied indices versus using mirror polishing, because had they used mirror polishing on the handset and the indices, it would be very shiny and reflective. But the brushed satin finishing reduces the reflection. It refracts the light rather than reflecting it like a mirror. This improves the legibility. You can see when you look at the piece straight on, the double dome sapphire crystal looks invisible. Perfect clarity, and that's the benefit of using double AR coating on the underside. The AR coating is outstanding. So nice curvature to it. Minimal gap beneath the tips of the tonneau case lugs. We don't have a large gap. Really wraps around the wrist very well. So this will fit you very well if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, and it will fit you equally well if you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist. 46 lug to lug is 2mm below the 48 sweet spot often referred to. 48 is the perfect lug to lug, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. So it is 2mm below. Normally I'd be critical of this, but I won't be critical on this occasion, because the tonneau case does have a lot of meat. It does have a lot of wrist presence. It is acceptable to shorten a tonneau case by 2mm, because if this were a 48 lug to lug with this tonneau case, there would be a lot of additional meat on the wrist, and I think it would be slightly long for smaller wrists of 6 to 7 inches. Even on my large 8 inch wrist, you can see the tonneau case at 46 lug to lug does look long enough. It does give satisfaction. There is enough wrist presence, and of course on the beads of ice bracelet that will add additional meat to it. But I think that they've got it right. 46 lug to lug, 40 tonneau case, 20mm lug width. 13.4 is marginally above the sweet spot. So, to clarify, you'll know this from my previous reviews, 13mm or below is the sweet spot for a piece to easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. At 13.4, it's just marginally above it at 0.4 thicker. I think it's okay, because we do have a double dome sapphire crystal. One has to be magnanimous about it, adding 0.4mm. It's not too thick. It will still slip underneath a shirt cuff, but be slightly difficult due to its extra 0.4mm thickness, but it's close enough. 13.4 is good enough. So daily wear piece, it's practical, and also can be worn as a dive piece, which is its intended purpose. Now just bear with me. I'm going to put back on my Concord 40, and then we'll do a Lume test, and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. Now, to clarify, this uses two different types of superluminova. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. So on the indices and the handset, we've got C3X1. On the sapphire bezel insert, we've got BGW9. Right, so that's now fully charged. And as you can see, we've got two different colours. So sapphire bezel insert uses BGW9, which is blue. On the indices and the handset, we've got C3X1. So what that is it's C3, which is green, mixed with X1, which is white. Purpose of that is X1 is whiter and brighter, and therefore it adds potency to the exciter of the C3. So initially it glows brighter than standard C3, which is a darker green, and also it performs better. It has longer glowing due to the added potency of the X1. On the bezel insert, it's just standard BGW9. Now, I think they've made a mistake here, subjectively. I personally prefer watches to be monochrome with regards to the Super Luminova, either green C3 throughout or blue BGW9 throughout, for example. I would prefer if they'd used C3X1 on the dial and hands and C3X1 on the sapphire bezel insert, because you can see there's a clash. We've got blue on the bezel insert and green on the dial. In terms of application, we're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers on the indices, 5 to 6 layers on the handsets. In daylight, there's a perfect colour tone match. The lume looks white on the dial, looks white on the hands. That's good. So, for example, we're not looking at 3 to 4 layers on the hands and 2 to 3 layers on the indices, which is excellent. Colour tone match is good. But on the bezel insert, it's not as bright. I'm going to charge it up again because this is why I think they should have used C3X1. The 5 to 6 layers on the indices and 5 to 6 layers on the handset are stellar, so I cannot be critical of that. But on the sapphire bezel inserts, on the underside, they've engraved it and then infilled it with BGW9. But you can see there aren't enough layers of it. This is not 5 to 6 layers of BGW9 on the underside of the sapphire bezel insert. Now, one has to be magnanimous, one has to be realistic. Sapphire crystal is difficult to engrave and infill with 5 to 6 layers of BGW9, because if you engrave sapphire crystal very deeply, it then weakens it and then it's prone to cracking, and that's the problem with it. It's difficult to inlay 5 to 6 layers of depth and engrave it deep enough to take the 5 to 6 layers. So one has to appreciate that. Ceramic is harder and it is brittle, but in comparison to sapphire crystal bezel inserts, one can engrave a ceramic bezel insert externally deeper to take 5 or 6. When you have a sapphire bezel insert, the lume has to be engraved, the engraving has to be on the underside, and then the infilling of the BGW9 has to be on the underside. Therefore, what we're looking at here, I think, is 3 to 4 layers, because it doesn't look like the brightness of 5 to 6. And one has to appreciate the BGW9 is shining through sapphire crystal, so that does dim it slightly. But nonetheless, you can see the C3X1 on the dial is brighter, the C3X1 on the handset is brighter, potency of the exciter is better due to the X1. The BGW9 on the sapphire bezel insert just doesn't have that potency. So I'd like to see a V2 version of this Aquasport 2, and I would like to see them update the sapphire bezel inserts. Stop using BGW9 3 to 4 layers and use C3X1 5 to 6 as per the dial and hands, because you can see the potency with the X1 added into it. The green is lighter green than C3. The X1 makes it whiter, but you can see the benefit of it. The potency is there. And this is what I'd like to see on the sapphire bezel insert. It is possible to do it with 5 to 6 layers. They just need to engrave the sapphire crystal deeper and apply an additional 1 to 2 layers to bring it up to 5 to 6, because you can see the BGW9, although it is good, it's sharp, it's high definition, one can read the triangle, the hour markers and the 10, 20, 30, etc. Arabic numerals, but it's just not as good as the dial. So we've got that mismatch in colour, but this is subjective. I appreciate some collectors like 2 different colour looms used, but I think it looks better monochrome, either green throughout or blue throughout. So that's my criticism. Dial and hands are excellent, stellar performance. There is room for improvement with the sapphire bezel insert. Right, so let's discuss the movement use, because it's my favourite aspect of the piece. So you'll all be familiar with the Circula Calibre SW200-1 automatic. So as I've detailed, the SW200-1 has the same architecture as the ETA 2824-2 because it is a clone of it. It's been in production since 2012, so at this stage in 2025, it's a reliable, well-proven workhorse Swiss calibre. Has 26 joules. It runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. So therefore the benefit is it has a nice smooth sweep rather than the stutter or judder of a 3 Hz sweep, as I've detailed. Hand winding and hacking are useful complications and they work well. Also has a quick set date complication, which, as I've demonstrated, works well. This has a 41-hour power reserve. So to clarify, early versions of the SW200-1 had a 38-hour power reserve, but then Sellita updated the power reserve. The SW200-1 in all grades now has 41-hour power reserve, which is better than the original 38. That was the main negative of it. Sellita produced an incredible 800,000 SW200-1s per annum. It's their most produced calibre of all their movements. 800,000 SW200-1s per annum. So incredibly high volume production movements, but therefore the reliability has been proven beyond question because it's been in production since 2012. There are no reliability issues in 2025 whatsoever. Early versions from 2012 onwards, they did have a negative, or one could say a defect or a QC issue. The ratchet wheel on the winding gears had a tendency to shear off the teeth on the ratchet wheel. So what that means is, with early versions of the SW200-1, when you manually wound the movements on the crown, the ratchet wheel teeth were soft and therefore they had a tendency to shear off, and of course then the movement failed. But then what Sellita did was they introduced a kit to upgrade the SW200-1s that were in circulation with a stronger, harder steel on the ratchet wheel in the winding gear, and the teeth didn't shear off, so one could retrofit the kit, the ratchet wheel could be upgraded. But in recent models, for example from 2020 onwards, that's what I'm talking about, from 2020 to 2025, the SW200-1s that are in circulation do not have that early defect of the teeth stripping off the ratchet wheel in the winding gears, and therefore the movements don't fail, they're now reliable. So I have no concerns whatsoever with this 2025 version, which is an elaborate version. So to clarify, the SW200-1 comes in 4 grades: standard grade, elaborate grade, chronometer grade, and then top grade. So the elaborate grade, to clarify, is regulated in 3 positions, and it's regulated in 3 positions to excuse me, plus or minus 7 to plus or minus 20 seconds per day. So rather wide accuracy range, plus or minus 7 to plus or minus 20. However, I'm pleased to report that Circula are doing a good job of regulating the SW200-1s they're using. This one is running consistently at plus 5 seconds per day when it's fully wound to its maximum 41-hour power reserve. Plus 5 is well within the stated plus or minus 7 to plus or minus 20 per day. And it's actually within chronometer grade accuracy of minus 4 to plus 6. Plus 5 is within minus 4 to plus 6 chronometer level. Excellent. Correct choice. They deserve credit because they could have taken the less expensive option of the standard grade, but they didn't. They went for the next level up, which is a elaborate grade. And one has to be realistic. One has to be magnanimous. They're not going to use the chronometer grade or the top grade of SW200-1 at this price point. It would not be viable to produce this watch in Pforzheim in Germany. To remind you, this piece is not made in China using an SW200-1 with made in Germany printed on the dial as a marketing ploy. This is something I'm often critical of with Swiss-made brands and Swiss-made micro-brands because, for example, in reality, with a piece that says Swiss-made on the dial, it's actually a marketing ploy. And what I mean by that is, what you're actually looking at with a Swiss-made piece with Swiss-made on the dial, it's a Chinese part watch, which may well be assembled in Switzerland and may well use a genuine Swiss Sellita SW200-1 to add 60% of value being Swiss-made and therefore meet the legal criteria to have Swiss-made printed on the dial. But in reality, what you're looking at is a Chinese part watch assembled in Switzerland with a Swiss-made calibre to make it look Swiss-made. Circula deserve credit. They don't do that. This watch really is made in Pforzheim in Germany, not China, Pforzheim in Germany. And it does use a genuine Swiss-made Sellita SW200-1 elaborate grade. So German-made piece, Swiss-made calibre. And I like that about it. And they're right to be proud of it and print made in Germany on the dial. This isn't a marketing ploy. This piece really is made in Pforzheim in Germany. The brand has 70 years of heritage behind it, backing that up. 3 generations in the family. From 1955, the grandson is now the CEO. So that's what I like about it. Brand heritage, 70 years backing up the watches made in Germany and Swiss-made movements. So excellent. Now, lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meet two criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, mid-tier piece, price point is €940 on this rubber tropic style strap. Alternatively, €990 on the beads of rice bracelet. So, €940. This is made in Germany, as I've detailed. Pforzheim in Germany. 70 years of brand heritage, that adds value. 2 years of warranty versus 1 year, that adds value. Swiss SW200-1, Elaboré grade versus the standard grade. All of these things add value and they fully justify the price point at €940. I'm going to declare it excellent quality and I'm going to declare the value as okay. Now, why do I say the value is okay? Why do I not say it's good or excellent? Simply down to the Lume test, and I'm just going to lastly repeat it to remind you and to clarify, because when I level criticism at a brand, I like to be fair rather than unfair. I like to be unbiased. Now, C3X1 on the dial and hands is stellar. Credit where credit's due. On the sapphire bezel insert, it's just not 5 to 6 layers of potency. They simply need to change it for C3X1 and use 5 to 6. This downgrades it from good or excellent value down to okay value at €940. If they use 5 to 6 layers of C3X1 on the sapphire bezel inserts, then yes, I would upgrade it to excellent quality and excellent value. This does face some stiff competition at €940. I appreciate it's made in Germany. I appreciate it has 70 years of brand heritage. One has to respect that. And of course it does have an SW200-1 Elaboré grade versus the standard grade. But nonetheless, this is the one shortcoming in the QC, or the production cost cutting, that needs to be refined with a V2 version. Then I would upgrade it to excellent quality and excellent value. But as it stands, it is an excellent quality watch. The value is okay. So I'm going to recommend it to you for consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Circula Aquasport 2 Grey. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.